We are live. We got a whole lot of shaking happening. Got a whole lot of shaking happening right here on WSUBSTAX. AX? They should change the name of Substack. Change it to Substacks with an X there. Welcome back to What's Wrong, a production of the Rushfield Jamboree, which is a production of Ankler Media. Which we're gonna have a long ladder of holding companies and conglomerates that we're associated with. So today we have, I guess this is a newsy conversation. The news was kind of just an excuse to bring on today's guest, who I've been wanting to get on here and have a chat with. We've needed a check-in for some time. Refer to my old friend, my sensei, the leader of a great movement that I want to actually get to and talk about, if I'm allowed to talk about that later on. I'm referring to Jay Kogen, the host of the longtime comedy writer, producer, host of his own podcast. What's wrong? Or not what's wrong.
Don't be alone.
Don't be alone. We have the similar width, though, that can be taken different ways. There.
Exactly.
Don't be alone with Jay Kogen. But you should be alone with Jay Kogen because he's a insightful and a font of wisdom, and here to tell us about what's going on in the industry today. In particular, what inspired me to have him on this day above all other days was the death of the passing of the great Jim Burrows. Jim, I'm sorry, can I call him Jim or?
Sure.
In the first version of this, the headline for this, I not only misspelled his name, but I called him Jim, and then I looked back on that and said
James Burrows. His book is written by James Burrows.
I'm not. I wasn't a friend of his. I don't have the right to call him Jim. But you were. You
Bobby De Niro always says Jim.
So I am told by when I run into a writer on the streets of Hollywood, or the streets of Century City where I am today, the first thing they say, we say hello, how you doing, and then the second thing they say is, TV is a writer's medium. That's top of the conversation. So what do we care about this? What is in television? Why are we so upset about the passing of this guy who all he had to do was tell the actors, stand there and read the lines that were written for you, and don't make trouble?
Well, there's a lot of ways to write. Let's put it that way. There's a lot of ways to write. And one of the ways to write is standing on stage with a bunch of actors trying to figure out what a scene's supposed to be. And sometimes in a stage direction, you write, character enters and goes to the refrigerator and opens it up and grabs a beer. Sometimes that's not in the stage directions, and it needs to be written by somebody. And Jim Burrows wrote it. And he was a very good writer in that sense because he aimed for things that were natural, that were normal, and also things that were sort of comedic. So he was a genius at comedic timing, at trying to make things sound words sound musical and rhythmic and feel funny. So that, I mean, we're just talking about the craft of him as a director, because he was so much more than that. But the craft of him as a director is he was able to sort of manifest things that we wrote and make them come alive in a way that wasn't antithetical to what we were writing. He wasn't making it stiffer. He wasn't making it worse. Most often he was making it better and adding things to it to make it even funnier. So he was a writer, and so much so that when people, he's considered a creator of Cheers. Most directors don't become a creator of a show. He was considered creator of Cheers because the Charles brothers saw him as a creative partner, a writing partner, not just a director.
Yeah, is there another director that gets that sort of?
I don't know of one. It's not impossible, but that was the most famous and the most specific version of that ever. They've they worked with this director so much and found his creative input so important that they wrote a pilot called Cheers and kept running it by him for his input before they even showed it to anyone else, because they wanted to make sure that it passed his muster, and any ideas he had, he put into it.
And what were the kind of, so first of all, where did you work with Mr. Burrows?
I worked with him at News Radio. I worked with him at Frasier. I worked with him at a show called Be Positive. I worked with him at every pilot of Kogen and Muchnick's. I worked with him he was just around television for very long, much longer than I was, and he had an incredible memory, and you just had to meet him once, and he was in, he had you in his file of people, and he was able to pick you out of a crowd and make you feel welcome. I mean, I want to say this about James Burrows, which is we're rerunning the episode in my podcast, Don't Belong with Jay Kogen, of my interview with Jim Burrows this week, coming out tomorrow. And I said in the introduction, but I'll say this. He said to the New York Times that he's pretty good. He has a knack of making families. And that is exactly right. He had a knack of making families on screen and off. On Friends, he took 6 actors and made them a family. On Cheers, he took 6, that group of actors and made them a family. Off screen, he connected them. He bonded them. He bonded with them and made them into a unit, such that when he directed the first, 6, 8, 10 episodes of Friends and then left. Maybe it was 11 episodes.
Yeah, you look at his IMDb page, all these shows that I thought of as like Jim Burrows shows, and then I look at it like he did 3 episodes of this 200 episode show.
He left to do other things. It was also a financial thing. He wants a stake in the show, and they didn't want to pay him a stake in the show. So he left, but he left them capable of making that show with any director, because they had been given enough training to know what not to listen to. So when an actor says, "I'll say it on the way out of the door," some directors would say, "You can't say it on the way out the door because we don't have a way to light you and mic you out the door." Jim Burrows would say, "No, we'll figure it out. We'll find a way to get that image and that sound. Don't worry about it. It's funnier out the door." So he let comedy be king. He let natural action be king. He let really sort of funny behavior be king. And actors sort of learned what good was and then kept doing what good was, even when worse directors would show up.
So when you say when he says he created family, how do you do that? How do you make a family? How do you get people?
How he did it was, he is very warm, and he knows your name.
That's cheating.
I know. It was not for you. You couldn't do it.
Yeah.
But other people do. He knew my name. He knew everybody's name. He's very aware of the people around him. He also is sympathetic, and he was dismissive of bad ideas. He was just like anybody else. He would say, "That's terrible," but he would do it in a way that you knew he didn't hate you. There's a lot of people who are big deals in show business who don't say things in a way that don't make it clear they don't hate you. A lot of people seem to hate me. Jim Burrows was not one of them.
You say comedy, director controls the timing of the show, and in comedy, timing is everything. When you write a script and you don't know who the director will be, are you sort of holding your breath to see who's going to get handed this, or what?
Well, no, because what you do is, eventually, if it's not done well, you step in and fix it. So it's eventually you get to fix it to the level of your expertise. So like I may not have the expertise of James Burrows, but I have some expertise, so I can fix it better or change the line if it's not working to the actor's satisfaction. But there are ways to fix it. What it does with when you have somebody like James Burrows on your set is, it's going to be as good as it's going to be. So like the script is going to be pretty good. 90% of everything you wrote will be as presented as best as it can be. And if it still sucks, that means you got to rewrite it or fix it in another way, but you'll have seen a good version of it. That's saves you 1 million hours of work. It saves you a lot of trouble. And when something's wrong, it's really wrong, and you've got to go back and fix it. So I'm not worried about other directors so much, but the great directors are the ones who present something wonderful, add a few beats of funny along the way that were surprising us when we're watching it, and it feels natural and makes the actors happy, and everybody's sort of gathering their speed and their rhythm over time.
Is all this a subset of the 3-camera era? Does that trend that was what he did a artifact of a particular time that is not it does not
happening now?
Yeah,
yes, I think so. And it's a theater. He was raised in theater. His dad, he studied theater. His dad was the great Abe Burrows, who helped create Guys and Dolls and all these amazing shows, How to Succeed in Business. I don't know. And yes, it's theater, and he was good at theater. He was great at cameras, and he was famous for pulling the cameramen around the stage while filming to get shots that he knew he'd want in the editing room. But mostly it's theater, and mostly it's how it's blocked and staged, and that is a multicam thing. Theater, multicam television is basically theater. And movies, single cam, still has a rhythm, still has funny, still has shots, but it's not the same. I think he excelled at the theater part.
Did he work in single cam, or did he want to work in single cam?
He did. And it wasn't what he was most known for, but he did it.
So another director I think of when you read the many books about the Prestige era, how many of those shows Timothy Van Patten created or saved or that, but really the job of the why are the directors so under? I mean, compared to David Chase and David Benioff and the first 5 episodes of Game of Thrones, I believe, were directed by Tim Van Patten, who established all that. But it is David Benioff and D.B. Weiss's show and all that. Why are the directors so unsung in TV, do you think?
I don't think they are anymore. I mean, I see them all getting executive producer credits, and I see them all, like in a pilot, establishing a look and a style of a show, and in success, they are either continue on as executive producer, even on episodes they don't direct, and I think they're perceived as very important, and they're part of a package. That when you go to pitch a show, you often pitch a show with your actors and your director in tow. So like that's the goal. So they are perceived as important, especially in single camera television, because they really are doing a lot of work there. A lot of the times, many shows, not all shows, the showrunner isn't even on set when the single camera show is being filmed and made. They're visiting sometimes, but so often there's an emissary from the writing staff who's there with them, but it's not the showrunner. So it's the director really making a lot of decisions, and sometimes the writer on stage whispers, shyly, "I don't think we got that one. We need another one, maybe." But the director's in charge of that and leading not just the creative aspect of the show, but the time that people are on stage. Everybody's time when they get to work is at the mercy of the director. So if the director takes too long, if the director doesn't work, if doesn't have a great solution for problems that are coming up, then your life is miserable. Great directors make your life not miserable, as well as creatively provide a beautiful vision for a show.
Can you think of some lessons you've learned as a person who has managed shows and all that from Jim Burrows, that things that he taught you?
Well, one of the great lessons is that not even Jim Burrows has shitty ideas. Like that he would say, like when we were stuck with something, he's like, why don't you have a pie fight? It was like, Jim, we're not gonna have a pie fight. That's not. Not. He says like, not all my ideas are good. Like, and he would say that, like, not all my ideas are good. Having the sort of self-awareness to know that not all of my ideas are good is great, because not all my ideas are good. Not everything that we do is good. We try, we pitch some stuff and they don't always work. And when they're bad, we want people to be brave enough to say, that's a shitty idea and don't do that one. So that's one thing. He's had humility to do that. Another great thing of his was he listened to the words. He listened to the music of the words. If you read his book, which is great, I recommend everybody read his book, which is called Directed by James Burrows. He talks about not looking at the stage at a certain point and just listening to how the actors are saying it, to say, does it flow? And he could give really good notes sometimes on a scene by saying that line just doesn't, it's slowing things down. I'm not sure why. I'm not sure what it is about that thing, but it's slowing things down. So being able to follow your instinct. Was that the Munsters?
That's my ringtone, the Munsters theme.
Okay.
Yeah.
So being able to
stolen from Ken Daly, our
sure
man who also has that ringtone.
But it's fantastic to sort of look at it in different ways, looking at just the visual, just the sound, figuring out in a multi-camera show, when you have people entering the same door a million ways, what's a different kind of way you can do it? He was always looking to innovate and do something different and do something smart and suggest new things. And that was and is still the goal, is to entertain people doing smarter, different things. You could do the same thing every week, but it's not as good as trying to find new things. There's a million lessons, but one of the great lessons also is being kind and calling everybody sweetheart and making sure that people know you're on their side. When Jim was on the set, I knew he was on the side of the show and cared about the people and wanted the show to be good. I don't think he ever phoned it in. If he did, I wasn't aware of it.
Who do the actors like better, the writers or the directors?
It depends on the writer and director. Some are hideous. Directors are hideous, and some showrunners are hideous, and I don't know. It depends on the actor. I can't vouch for anyone. I mean, there are famously, and Chuck Lorre is famously a kind of persnickety guy, but I don't know. He's loved by actors and loved by certain writers. Like, I don't know. It depends on what day you get them. And there's some directors that have been are snarky and push you around and try to push the actors around, and that's usually a bad idea. I saw Bradley Whitford online today talking about how, just a clip of him talking about how sometimes he would pull directors aside and say, "Stop directing. Don't just let the I think he said, let the horses out of the barn and let them go." So that's like, for a show like West Wing, which is really sort of pinpoint written, and there's not a lot of acrobatics in terms of staging, just let it happen. So sometimes not directing is good, and directors who try to put their imprint on it can really piss people off and make people feel like you don't get the show and you don't know what's going on. But a lot of Jim Burrows used to say, "I make the shows director proof," which is true. He would make the shows director proof. Like, he would get a tone for a show and let everybody, all the actors, know what the tone is. And an interloper came in and started to change things, they would know that's not the way to do it.
So it strikes me how much of production and how much of making things work comes down to things that AI will never be able to touch, that the development process will never be able to touch. Just the finding the voice, finding what works on the.
Yeah, I guess as we're learning, AI, at least the current version of AI, requires human intervention. So like there's AI, and then people are just keep plugging in different requests and prompts and things to try and get AI to work better. When AI doesn't work, it's up to a human being to sort of look at AI's work and say, this is close, but this isn't right. So I think AI, the best AI will do for us is work as a tool, at least in the Hollywood world, work as a tool creatively, that we will work with AI, that AI won't be taking over completely.
Yeah.
Which is good, because I want a job.
Before we move on to Chuck, we gotta just check in on the state of the industry here. In our brief, this is only a half hour. You've been on the Rushfield lunch with a full hour. This one we only have the room for half an hour. So
I got it. I'm good.
Yeah, but give us your James Burrows viewing list. What are the James Burrows shows that?
I mean, all right. So Cheers is a masterclass. The pilot of Frasier is a masterclass. I think it's the best pilot ever conceived anytime. You take a character that people know and you're going to change it a little bit and put them in a new situation and make it as interesting or more interesting than the giant beloved hit show that already existed. Oh my gosh, what a task. And they did it fantastically. I think News Radio was brilliant. Friends, Big Bang Theory. I mean, all the he did big shows and made sure, and everything I'm talking about now is all about the ensemble. It's all about how the characters are interacting with each other. He worked on the Mary Tyler Moore Show, and he worked on all these MTM shows earlier on, but he came to fruition. I feel like he became the master when it was time for Cheers and Will and Grace and these great ensemble comedy shows.
Yeah, the people who know how to wrangle the intangibles, like
Yeah.
how much so much depends on them, and that's why, like, development could never replace them. AI will never be able to replace them, and even genius showrunners are still, their fates still hang on those people. So.
Yeah, well, we're hoping that's true at the very least. I'm not hoping that's true.
We'll find out.
Yes.
Which brings us to how's things going out there? What's it like on the streets right now?
Nobody's crazy about this merger between Paramount and Warner Brothers.
Seems
they seem particularly upset by it.
It seemed like early on when it was announced, the town was roughly divided, and you'd hear a lot of people. There were a lot of people making cases for it, and there were a lot of people saying things. And the opposition was really. Now I don't hear anyone making the case for it.
No, well, I mean, everybody who's fine with it is just shutting up because the other people are so loud. But I feel like at the very best, it is taking away one extra buyer. The very best, it's another studio gone means another place that we can't show things, and another studio gone means a studio full of people out of work, because they'll be halved. The company will then be halved, so less people working. It's a drag, which is problematic because we see a little bit of the buyers coming back to TV. The buyers are coming back to movies a little bit. It's like a trickle, but before the faucet was shut off completely. Now there's a trickle of buying, a trickle of listening. People are still very concerned about whether they can afford to buy a show and put it on and all that kind of stuff. And executives are concerned about keeping their job. So if they put their name or stake in a particular thing, they're worried that's going to be the last thing and they'll be fired. So there's a very tenuous feel to the industry about how we will survive as they shift from streaming subscriptions to more advertising, to figuring out how, once again, TV will be like TV was, which is advertisers will support all of this at some point because that's how the money will get made.
Yeah, and there'll be 3 networks supported by advertisers, and they will do things that are broadly appealing to brother, which it sounds familiar.
Right, and I'm not against it. It just, this was a little interesting little trip we took. in this world of just anything and niche and things can be, and maybe some of that will remain, but it does seem like it's shifting back towards large audiences and advertising supported things.
Well, what built this world that I've written about and campaigned about, but from way back when was FinCEN and the rule that allowed this whole ecosystem of independent producers to do lots of different things and take lots of different chances and compete against each other. And in theory, we could have that world back if with FinCEN reform.
I guess so. I mean, the syndication seems to be dead. Like I don't know who's buying what anymore, and where they would show it. Like that part seems to be dead.
Well, overseas for one thing.
Yeah.
The internet. I mean, that was the you get domestic and we make all our money overseas was.
I'm huge in Tunisia. I'm gigantic.
Right,
so that's where my big money comes.
As you should be. What is the feeling like? How when you go to lunch with a bunch of
I know you want to hear the dour, sad,
yes,
people are really bummed out about kind of thing. I think there's resignation. A lot of people are resigned to the situation as it is. People are excited that every now and then they pitch a show and it gets bought, or every now and then there's a show to work on. It's not like it was, and it's certainly most people aren't making the living that they used to make by doing this thing, but that people are still doing stuff and still surviving and trying to survive. You know, I was survived in 25 and I don't know what it is in 26, but we're still rolling through it and hoping to get to a place where our wares are needed, our creativity is needed, and that content, which is always needed, will then be there'll be some sort of financial arrangement figured out where people can make a living doing the thing that actually everybody wants.
Do you have I was just talking on another podcast. I just jumped from podcast to podcast all day. And on my last podcast, I was talking about risk and how the appetite for risk moved from film to TV in the beginning, in the peak TV era, because that happened at a time when film was becoming very templated and safe and predictable, and TV was exploding. So it could, make it 700 shows, you could do all sorts of stuff. And now it seems like the pendulum for risk is swinging. I don't know, swinging back, but swinging somewhere towards the middle.
Probably that pendulum seems to be the cost of making the item. So like the cheaper the cost of making the item, the more risk one can take. If it's something that kids can do in their backyard, they can take all the risk in the world. If it costs a $250 million Marvel movie, then it's going to take a lot less risk. They're going to want to really make sure that it's going to pay their investors back. So there's where the risk is. And traditionally TV costs less than movies because episode by episode, an episode of TV costs less than making a movie. So there's where I think the risk was on TV side. Now, if there's more risk being taken in movies, it's because they're making cheaper movies, is my guess. I can't imagine that there's any other reason.
And just to make the life even more complicated, if AI allows you to do cheaper things that play at a higher level, in theory, you'll make a lot more movies,
right?
Which will mean more people hired on that end of things. So,
although if AI is making it, then a lot of people who used to make those amazing graphics and cinematography and all that kind of stuff will not be hired.
Someone has to figure out how to do the math on that of do you lose 40% of your crew? So then if you make 10 times as many, that would cover the.
None of it seems acceptable. I will say that none of it seems acceptable. I have crew members who I dearly need. I've worked with my whole life, and to say that, well, they're expendable is ridiculous. Then none of them are expendable, because not only do the people who light my shows light my shows, they also tell me, hey, there's something wrong with that scene and it could be better. Like, it's not just they have creative voices to add to it. None of those people went into lighting. They're not electricians. They're all theater people. They're all people who love shows, who love acting, who love making things, and they all have voices, and their voices, it would be a shame if those voices weren't part of our shows.
I agree. Thank you very much. And as I said, I was going to have a whole segment. We've never had in our many on the air talks, we've never gotten into the history of a certain group chat that you invented. The group chat.
Well, the stump. Yes.
I wasn't going to say it because I didn't know.
It's not a secret.
It was a secret.
No, it was never a secret.
What do you mean?
Here's the Stump was an internet group that I was in charge of, and the rule of the Stump was if somebody wrote something, it was theirs. You couldn't repeat what they wrote, but the existence of the Stump was not a secret. What they wrote belonged to the writer. The copyright of the material that they wrote belonged to the writer. That was the only rule.
I took that to mean you could never mention
you can mention the Stump,
the existence of the Stump.
And if you ask the writer permission, can I say this or repeat it? Then you get it. But we were protecting the writer's integrity.
The Stump was we'll preview the next conversation here. The Stump was I think you invented the group chat there.
I was the forerunner to the group chat, and it was I'm a historical figure because I'm the only pioneer of the internet who failed to make any money on it. So
it was how many people were on there? It was a few hundred.
Yeah, a few hundred
of comedy people, and
right.
and including some luminaries that you have heard of.
Yeah, big names.
Come back next time, and maybe we will reveal, or maybe we won't. But it was this very special place. It lived on this service called Tight Circle, and then Tight Circle. Why did Tight Circle? But
Tight Circle was bought by a company and then closed down, as many things are.
and didn't even retain the archives.
No, I feel like I have an archive of what was at a certain point of everything that was on the Stump at some point. I don't know where, but again, all that material belongs to the writers. It doesn't belong to. I can't show it because it doesn't belong to me.
Right. All right. Maybe we'll put together a Stump reunion here on what's wrong.
That'd be
great. Anyway, thank you, Jay, for joining us.
Have a very dour day, Richard.
I try.
Okay.
Rest in peace, Jim Burrows.
Yes.
Take care.